Life comes with a lot of decisions, and it can be hard to know the right path sometimes. A therapist can help you map out what you really want, so you trust yourself to make great choices and feel excited about the future. BetterHelp offers convenient professional online therapy on your schedule, however you want it, by phone, chat, or video call. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/positive.
Looking for an adventure? Find yours in a Toyota truck. Like a Tacoma, the ultimate off-road machine. With available crawl control, you'll tackle anything in your way. Or an electrified Tundra with more power than ever before and a spacious high-tech cabin that puts you in charge. Or go with the legendary 4Runner, always reliable and durable over the toughest terrain. No matter your adventure, Toyota has you covered. Visit buyatoyota.com for more, and let's go places.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily. Paul Brockton Caster, glad to be here with you. We'll just continue the conversation here that we kind of got started. The cool thing about the next, 2, maybe 3 weeks or so, is that IHOP hotline is going to be open, and we are sort of open for business here as we make our way through an interesting part of the sports calendar, a way to, sort of officially, I think, end the last year and move forward into the next year. And we've done that now with the NBA as we get into the offseason and wait for Fred VanVleet sort of to make his deal. But we're talking Chiefs right now, and the Chris Jones deal sort of just has us taking stock of everything. And I don't know what makes this get done outside of Quinnen Williams. To me, it feels like that's what this is all waiting on, and the Chiefs will just top whatever that deal is, which is the way it should happen. Chris Jones is better than Quinnen Williams, as much as I like Quinnen Williams. I don't, we haven't seen or gotten any indication that there is a length of time concern or issue. I would imagine the Chiefs are going to give him a 3-year deal. I think that would be comfortable on both sides, quite frankly. Maybe Jones wants more. You brought up that Quinnen Williams wants less and the Jets want more years. I would imagine it's the opposite with the Chiefs and Jones. They'd probably like a shorter deal, and he's obviously going to try to get as many years as he can, but just make it guaranteed money, get it loaded to the appropriate year. I think the other complicated thing is, Tommy, there's probably some desire to work both this and the Mahomes deal at the same time to try and massage out cap hits in each season and where they come. Mahomes' deal, if I were Brett Veach, and I'm not near smart enough and I don't totally understand all this, it gets so complicated, I would want, in the years where Jones is going to make a ton, Mahomes to make less, and vice versa, right? At least for the next 2 or 3 years, and try to figure out a way to do that in a way where they both don't totally dominate the cap in a year. I don't know if that's even possible, but I think it is. And I think you've got in Mahomes somebody who's totally willing to make whatever happen that needs to happen. It's interesting to me that we've got holdouts now, because I never really saw contention. And I still don't know if I see contention. But, man, Jones didn't show up to the ring ceremony. And I know he said he was sick on social media, but, I don't know that I buy that, especially when you don't come to minicamp. It's just strange. It's a little bit strange. There's a strange turn happening in this whole thing that I don't know. It's just kind of sticking in me a little bit.
I think you and I have different opinions on this, because I think that you put a lot of it on Chris Jones, or you put a lot of it on Chris Jones, right? Like and I don't. Like, I put this on the Chiefs, like needing to get a deal done, and like the leverage.
But how can they
really?
If Jones wants to wait for Williams to top his deal, what can the Chiefs even do at this point?
Then why not just go ahead and not even worry about the Quinnen Williams deal? Pay him above that to get the deal done. Like, you're trying to expedite it, right?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think Chris Jones wants to do that. I think he wants to top Quinnen Williams.
I get it, but like, if you have and the Chiefs should have a general idea of the kind of money that Quinnen Williams is going to garner, right? Like, they might not know specifics, but they kind of have a general idea. They should, right, on how much per year Quinnen Williams will get. Then just go over that and go enough over that to where at that point Chris Jones is like, all right, I don't need to wait for Quinnen Williams anymore, right? Like,
I
don't
agree.
Just get it done.
I think that they would. I just don't know that these guys are alphas, Tommy. Chris Jones wants to make sure he's making $1 more than, if it's everybody but Donald. I mean, good for him for understanding what Donald is, but like we've seen this. Tyreek Hill left because he wanted to make more than what Devontae Adams just got paid. Each quarterback, seriously, it's like $1 more. It's crazy. It's what happens all the time. And so I don't know if it is. Look, if what you're saying is true and the possibility exists for the Chiefs to get this done without waiting for Quinnen Williams, then yeah, I agree. They should get it done. What I'm saying is I'm not sure that's the case. I'm not sure that there is anything outside of making him higher paid than Aaron Donald, which they shouldn't do. But I'm not sure there is anything they can get done at this point. If Jones's goal is to be the guy, and you don't know what that's going to take, I don't know what you're supposed to do.
I think what you're supposed to do at that point is to show your cornerstone franchise defensive player how valued he is by saying, you know what? You know that Quinnen Williams deal? You know that you're waiting on that? Why don't we go ahead and blow that out of the water? Let's go back to the table. We don't even know. That deal's not even done with Quinnen Williams. But let's go ahead and find a number that is so far above the Quinnen Williams deal that you feel comfortable and we can go ahead and get it done. Because honestly, the urgency should be on the side of the Chiefs. And typically I wouldn't be a proponent of overpaying for someone, even if it is Chris Jones. Normally I wouldn't be a proponent of, saying, you know what, let's give up the negotiations and just pay you whatever you want and get it done. But the urgency, because of the lack of cap space, is there for the Chiefs enough to where they should be saying, Chris Jones, like, write a number on a piece of paper and we'll pay it, because we need to convert that salary to a signing bonus so we can go out and get everything else done. Because right now, by not getting a deal done, it's hamstringing the Chiefs for doing, the other things that they need to accomplish. So at this point, like, that's what I would advocate for. And maybe there isn't a number for Chris Jones where he would feel comfortable with just saying, all right, like, let's go ahead and just get it done. Maybe regardless of the number, he wants to wait for Quinnen Williams. I don't know. But I feel like if that number is big enough, I think at that point, Jones can just say, forget about Quinnen Williams. Let's go ahead and get our deal done.
Chris Jones might be my favorite defensive player in football right now. He's up there, certainly. Okay, let me preface what I'm about to say with that. And it is June 26th, and we're pondering here. So nobody please overreact or take this in some crazy direction. But here's the other harsh reality. If Chris Jones doesn't play for the Chiefs, they have a chance to win a Super Bowl, Tommy?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question.
Of course they do. Yes, they do. They do. Chris Jones is third most important, maybe the second most important player on the team. I'd probably say it's 2A and 2B with he and Kelsey. But yes, the Chiefs are always going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl when it's Mahomes under center. I think that we know that from Mahomes now. Now, does it get way harder? Absolutely. Again, I think he's probably the second most impactful defensive player in football. He's my favorite defensive player, but he doesn't play quarterback. And so we saw with Tyreek Hill, how many people, Tommy, and let's be honest here, we'll remember back to predictions, when you said Tyreek Hill will not be a Chief, can they still win a Super Bowl? There were a whole lot of people writing the Chiefs off, more than there has been in a long time, right? And what happened? They were just fine. If we think that there's leverage for Chris Jones here, but I wonder how much the leverage that, and the Chiefs, honestly, publicly, probably want there to be that perception, right? But the reality is, nobody is that important outside of the quarterback in the NFL. Nobody is, ever. And that's the economics of football right now. And so, I just don't want this to get to that point of contention, because I think that's the reality. Like, at some point, yeah, Chris Jones could price himself out, where the Chiefs are like, you know what? We got to move on. That's what they did with Tyreek Hill. Now, Jones is far more impactful to their chances, I think, and I think we saw that. As great as Tyreek Hill is, Jones is, a linchpin on defense that they got to have. But other guys can play there, and maybe they adjust, and maybe they take a step forward offensively, and maybe it's 1 year while they retool and find whatever it is. I don't think the Chiefs are in a position ever in contract negotiations of desperation. Like outside of Patrick Mahomes, there will never be an ounce of real desperation in the Chiefs front office. They've won their Super Bowls. They know at some point they have to continue to slowly retool, and there will be a new phase of the Chiefs at some point. We're sort of in that middle ground now, but that's the reality. The perception is Chris Jones has all this leverage. I'm not sure that he does have all this leverage.
Okay, so what if I told you that the Chiefs can't get a Patrick Mahomes contract extension done until they get a Chris Jones contract extension done? And you mentioned that there's not desperation from the Chiefs front office. But if one is holding up the other, and if one is holding up the most important one, then at that point, I don't want to say it's desperation, but at that point, the timing becomes really important. They don't have the cap room. They don't have the cap room right now to be able to do anything with Patrick Mahomes.
I don't think there's urgency for Mahomes. I think Mahomes has dispelled that as clearly as he can. I don't think that there's any urgency for Mahomes. There is urgency for Chris Jones. Chris Jones, he's at the point of his career where this is probably the last mega deal he's got. Now, he may do more deals down the road, but this is the biggest one he'll probably do. And so this is a critical moment. Mahomes' deal isn't going to be held up by Jones in the sense that they can't get them both done. The only thing about Mahomes, I think, that gets held up is they have to figure out where to put the money. But Mahomes doesn't have anything to worry about, and I don't think he is worried about it at this moment. I do think that it makes some fiscal sense to try to do them in tandem, but that has more to do with fitting Chris Jones in than it has anything to do with Mahomes. It just sort of has to happen that way. I don't know. There could be, and this is, again, June 26th conversation here, grain of salt kind of conversations. There could be absolutely no big deal happening. Honestly, everybody's sitting back and saying, Brett Veach calls Chris Jones and says, hey, man, you doing okay? I know you're sitting out. Still waiting on that Quinnen Williams deal. You good with that? And he says, yeah, sorry, I got to sit out because that's the way business is done in the league. No big deal. We'll get it figured out. If it's not going to get done before training, I think that absolutely could be on the table, right? And maybe even the most likely. And I guess the hardest thing for me to get a grasp of is, what does a holdout even mean? What does a holdout of minicamp and not showing up to that's the part that I can't quite get a sense of, is how big a deal is that? Because I don't know. It could be anywhere from no big deal to very big deal. And I don't know. I really don't know. And that's what, like, if it's training camp, I know, okay, that's a big deal. Like, training camp is a big deal. Minicamp and ring ceremony, where does that fall in the scale of big deal? I really don't know. And that's what I think I'm having the most trouble with.
So I think that the only concern that I really have with this is that there's been a fairly long-standing strategy that Brett Veach has implemented over the last couple of seasons. And really, I would even suggest that it goes back even further than, when they let Tyreek Hill go to the Dolphins and they traded him. That strategy, in my mind, has always been, you take care of Mahomes, Jones, and Kelsey. And outside of the big three,
I agree.
Then you go and you draft well, and then you go and you try to plug holes with inexpensive veterans. That's kind of been the strategy for a while. Now, going back to the question that you posed a few minutes ago, can the Chiefs win a Super Bowl without Chris Jones? Sure, it's possible when you've got Patrick Mahomes under center. My issue with that and my concern with that is that goes away from the strategy that Brett Veach has implemented for so long that's led to this success and the Super Bowl victories and the rings and all of that. So I'm not saying it can't be done without Chris Jones, but what I'm saying is that it goes away from the best practices it's built the Chiefs over the last 4 or 5 seasons. I'd hate to move away from that. And I think that Brett Veach would hate to move away from that too. That's my only concern. Can they? Sure. It makes it that much more difficult if they don't
But their
have Chris
strategy,
Jones
Tommy,
anchoring
was
the
never to
defense.
trade Tyreek Hill either. Sometimes you have to adjust. Like, sometimes you have to adapt. And that's on Chris Jones, not the Chiefs. I don't think there's any doubt the Chiefs are ready to make him, whatever it is, above everybody else but under Donald. I think that's what Chris Jones wants. I think it's just become this waiting game. And does that make it problematic, or is that just out of everybody's control and we just sort of have to wait? I don't know. I think it's probably the latter, probably. But is there a possibility it's the former? And that's what has me just slightly concerned. If I think there's a 95% chance 95 is starting at defensive tackle week 1 for the Kansas City Chiefs and everything's fine. There's 5% chance that it's not. The longer this goes, maybe the more that creeps up just a little bit. 869-1240 is the number to call. IHOP hotline is open. What are your thoughts on this? Chicken and egg, no big deal. What do we think? We'll get to that. We'll get to more. We'll talk a little baseball. All kinds of good stuff coming up this time of year. It's Sports Daily. We'll be right back.
Nationals baseball is in full swing.
Strike 3 called. He got him looking. That's 10 strikeouts for Mackenzie Gore.
With the free Odyssey app, local fans can listen live all summer long, whether you're at the grill or at the pool.
Going, and gone. Goodbye. C.J. Abrams, a grand slam.
Nationals baseball. Nationals announcer. Streaming live on the free Odyssey app. AUDACY. Get in the game and download it today.